Hi everyone! In this video, we are continuing our exploration of land between the lakes. In the last video, we explained the different types of camping here in LBL, developed self-service, basic, and dispersed, and showed some examples of each. If you'd like to go back and watch that video, we'll link it at the end of this one and in the description. Today we're going to talk about the road numbering system here in LBL, what you can expect with each type of road, and show some examples of those as well. Welcome to Adventures with Heck and Back. If you're new here, I'm Gina, and my husband Tim and I love to travel, camp, and explore. We travel in our F-150 Heck and Back, and recently upgraded from a rooftop tent to a Campanaugh trailer. We both have full-time careers, but we're working towards transitioning into full-time travel. If you'd like to support us in our journey, hit that subscribe button so we can keep growing our channel. And of course, let us know if you like the content we're creating. So before we came here to LBL the first time, we didn't realize that there was an actual road numbering system. And we imagine other people may not realize that as well. We had done some research, but mostly about camping. We honestly hadn't thought too much about the roads. Once we began exploring, though, maps in hand, we began to see what the numbers meant, and then were able to anticipate what we were getting into a little bit more. We at least knew what to expect. There are lots of maps available on Land Between the Lakes website. They have a whole section for maps. So everything from general purpose maps, campground and trail maps, maps of hunting areas even. And then right here is the MVUM, Motor Vehicle Use Map section. So they have a frequently asked questions and the actual map itself. Most of you are probably familiar with what an MVUM is. Basically, it's a map that shows and lists all the legal roads and uses of roads within forest areas. So in this case, within LBL. Of course, you can always use tools like Gaia, OnX Off-Road, and even Google Maps. In Land Between the Lakes, we found that Google Maps actually did a decent job. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these roads. There is one major highway in Land Between the Lakes, US Highway 68, which runs east and west. It crosses the lakes/rivers on either side with these beautiful bridges. There is also another road that runs north and south. It is a state highway. I think in Tennessee it's 49 and in Kentucky it's 453. It's all one road, and as it goes through Land Between the Lakes, it is known as 100, also known as Woodland Trace or simply the Trace. The numbering system starts with 100 and goes into the 400s, with roads in the 100s being the most accessible and roads in the 400s being the most rugged, at least in theory. But you'll see here in a minute that that isn't always true. I would say that most of the roads numbered 100 go somewhere specific. So roads going to campgrounds or going to boat ramps or things like that are often 100 numbered roads. Let's take a look at some of those and where they go, and you'll see what I mean about in theory. This is Forest Service Road 133, also known as Silver Trail, and it turns off of 100 to get to the nature station. And then once you go around the corner, it becomes Forest Service Road 134, which takes you to Energy Lake Campground and then back to Highway 68. So this is probably after 100, this is the next major road. Some of the 100 level roads are nicely paved like this one, but definitely not all of them. This is Forest Service Road 123, which turns off of 117. And as you can see, it's sort of paved. It's half paved, half gravel. But this road doesn't go to any specific destination. There's a dispersed campsite at the end of this road, but it isn't a road that a lot of people would be traveling. The little white sign here is what the road number signs look like. This is Forest Service Road 129. So again, a road that doesn't go to any popular area, and therefore it's just a gravel road, even though it is a 100 level road. It's a well-maintained gravel road. We found this to be true for most of the 100 level roads, although there are some exceptions. Let's take a drive for a minute down 139, Forest Service Road 139, which is also County Line Road, separating Trigg County from Lyon County.
Yesterday there was sun and there was rain, beauty in the mundane. And as the light startled our eyes, we let go of disguise. And now there's something in the air and a sparkly shimmer on our skin, restoring everything within. Oh, dreamy, breezy, we go. Easy, easy on our tiptoes, undercover agents of the other, beyond gravel, beyond all. Hand in hand, building castles out of sand, reaching for the grand. As willows align, we lose track of time. Head up high, now we climb. Oh, dreamy, breezy, we go. Easy, easy on our tiptoes, undercover agents of the other, beyond gravel, beyond all. A bigger scale, the world inhales as we go. I wouldn't want it any other way, no. Dreamy, breezy, we go.
As you can see, the further away from the main road, the trace, you get, the rougher it gets. The first part is easily passable by any kind of passenger car, but the further you go, you probably do want a high clearance vehicle, not necessarily with four-wheel drive, although that would be useful. Especially if you make it all the way to the dispersed camping area here. It gets pretty rough the last little bit. Keep in mind also that you're responsible for your own safety. Some places, many places, you're not going to get a good cell signal, and it's not like you can just call AAA to come and haul you out. Another thing you'll discover sometimes are spur roads. So this is Forest Service Road 127. Again, this goes to some more dispersed camping areas. So just a single lane gravel road, but well maintained, easily drivable. This is 127B, a spur off of 127 that also leads to some dispersed camping. One of the things that we find so fascinating out here is all of the reminders that this used to be a much different area. Land between the lakes was originally land between the rivers, and when they built the dams and created the lakes, they flooded a lot of the land that was here. So you come across places like this where the road was never taken up, it was just covered by water. So you can actually see the road through the water for a ways, and then you can see on the other side where it picks back up again. This is 127A. So 127A and 127B form a little triangle off of 127.
Easy, easy on our tiptoes, undercover agents of the other, beyond gravel, beyond all.
200 level roads are the same as 100 level roads, except they originate off of the trace in Tennessee. So you can see the dividing line here for Kentucky and Tennessee. Roads that start at the trace up in Kentucky are 100 level roads. So we have 165 and 172 here. And then once we cross the line, we do have a 300 level road, which we'll get to in a minute. But then you can see 201 is originating off of the trace here in Tennessee. And then as we go further down, 204, 205. So 100 and 200 level roads are really the same thing. 100 roads originate on the trace in Kentucky, and 200 roads originate on the trace in Tennessee. Something else you might have noticed there is that roads are numbered from north to south, again in general. So at the very northern part of land between the lakes, the first road is 101. And numbers go up from there. And then the first road, once it gets into Tennessee, is 201. And then the numbers go up from there. 300 and 400 level roads tend to be a little bit less maintained and more rugged. Although, again, that is in general, we found some pretty nice 300 level roads. 300 level roads are often connector roads running between 100 or 200 level roads, or little spurs that head out to dispersed camping areas. We found 300 level roads to be easily doable with a high clearance vehicle. We did have to put it into four-wheel drive just a couple times, but for the most part, still easily passable. Do keep in mind, though, that these tend to be primarily dirt roads, so the more rain there's been, the sketchier things could get. There were a couple that we decided not to go down because they were so muddy right at the beginning. And don't get me wrong, we don't mind mud at all, but we don't have our winch set up yet, so we didn't want to get into a situation where we had to call for help.
Set out on the open road, same old place you always used to go when you were younger. Speeding through a 50 song like your dad before, you didn't even notice. The old man with silver hair sitting in his rocking chair. Soon you'll be there. Though it's easy to remember, it's as easy to forget that it leaves you feeling down, filled with some regrets. All this drink of the memory called the good old days. All those sweet in the moment, poison for you. Listening to the same old tunes you to forget, but it leaves you feeling down and filled with some regrets. All this trick of the memory, call them good old days, although sweet in the moment.
And of course, 300 level roads are where you're going to tend to find the water crossings. We decided not to go through this one. Further ahead, it looked pretty rough, but there were still plenty of other water crossings to find. Honestly, though, one of our favorite roads we found so far for water crossings is 141. 400 level roads could be the most questionable. We passed some that looked pretty sketchy, but we also took one that wasn't a problem at all. This is 415, which goes out to St. Stephen's Chapel. I believe St. Stephen's Chapel is the only remaining church still standing, and it has been restored by a group of volunteers.
Four feet on the stripes in the Alabama highway. Out there in the open, just a wishing and a hoping. I could smell the pines when I let you in the doorway. Took the seat next to mine.
400 level roads tend to be short spurs, usually going out to a dispersed camping area. It makes sense that this one would be more maintained since there is a destination here that more people may be driving out to see. Few final comments about the MVUM, which is the official legal map for all of the roads within Land Between the Lakes. The official maps will always start with some explanation, just reminding you that it is your responsibility to study these maps and to know whether you're on a legal road. The roads won't always be labeled on the ground, so as you're actually driving around, every road will not necessarily have a sign, and it's your responsibility to look at the map and to recognize when you're on a legal road and when you're not. So let me scroll down to a particular one here. So you can see it's divided into sections. So we'll go ahead and take a look at this particular section of the maps and do a little bit of comparison here. Sugar Bay Campground is one of the campgrounds we showed in our previous video. So campground we really like, what they consider a self-service campground. And you can see on here all the roads labeled, and you can see that there are some roads that are highlighted. So whenever you see a highlighted road, if you scroll down, you'll be able to see why that road is highlighted. So this is telling you that those roads are open to highway legal vehicles only. And there's a seasonal designation. And so then it tells you that the seasonal designation is due to turkey hunt season. So the dates that vehicles are allowed is May 5th to March 27th. So basically it's closed for the month of April, and that's because April is turkey hunting season. So there are designations for various reasons, and there are some places where other types of vehicles are allowed. And so it'll explain what types of vehicles are allowed in those charts. Okay, so here's the MVUM map. You can also use things like Gaia, OnX Off-Road, and even Google Maps. So I thought I would show you a quick comparison here. So this one is the MVUM, the actual official one from Land Between the Lakes. Here is Gaia with the MVUM layer turned on. So you can see this is what's matching the official map here. So you can see that same road. Let me zoom in a little bit more here. So 412, 319, and 412. So you can see that here. When I turn off the MVUM layer though, you can see that there are other roads showing. So technically these would not be legal roads. The MVUM is what the legal roads are. So we thought that was interesting. This was actually the first time that we really noticed a discrepancy between what was showing on the topo map and what was showing on the MVUM map. OnX is showing the same topo map as Gaia. But then if we switch over to Google Maps, it's actually showing the MVUM roads and not the other roads. So, sometimes a combination of maps helps you to see things a little bit more clearly, especially when you're on the ground. But remember that the MVUM is the official legal roads designated by the Forest Service. It does explain in the MVUM that you may come across other roads that are intended for Forest Service personnel, for maintenance, for administrative purposes, things like that. So the first time we were here, I mentioned we didn't have the MVUM with us, and we were really just kind of driving around. So we came across this road and took it. It wasn't labeled. It wasn't marked off either, so no sign saying not to enter. But it does explain in the MVUM that it is your responsibility to know that roads may not be marked. So we went down this road thinking there was a dispersed campsite down there, and turns out there wasn't. It eventually led out to the power lines right of way. And when we realized that, we turned around and headed back. As Tim was driving, I started checking Gaia and OnX and Google Maps to figure out where we were. and couldn't find this road on any of the maps. And then later when we looked at the MVUM, it's not on those as well. So this is definitely a road that we should not have been on, which just goes to show how easily you can end up someplace that you're not supposed to be if you're just driving around without any kind of map. When we turned onto this road, it looked like a legit road to us. So don't do what we did. Make sure you know where you're at, that you have maps with you, and that if you're wanting to explore an area and you're uncertain about some roads, check with Forest Service personnel. I know there's an argument to be made that these are public lands and we should have full access. But there's always things going on that we don't know or don't understand. So, there's reasons that certain areas are limited access to protect resources for safety reasons and things like that. If we want to continue to have access to these lands, we have to respect the rules and protect them so they'll be here for future generations. Not a lecture, just our opinion. We hope you enjoyed exploring these roads in LBL with us. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you found something helpful, and we'll see you in the next video.